I need to start this video off with a warning as a disclaimer. Do not watch this video if you are prone to anxiety or if existential thoughts or ideas give you anxiety, if you are mentally or emotionally unstable, or if it gives you fear to contemplate the ultimate truth and reality of the cosmos. Because we're going to be talking about some heavy topics here: depersonalization and derealization, which you may or may not have struggled with. And you possibly will not like the things that I have to say, although they are not objectively bad. If you're biased, they might upset you. Or if you're holding on to these belief systems you have that reality is a hard, physical, material, clockwork-like mechanism in which you know and love and that your parents have taught you it's been for the past 10, 20, 30, 40 years. But anyway, let's get into it. Derealization is the experience of reality feeling distant, dreamlike, or fake. Even though you're awake, the outside world feels unreal or feels like you're inside of a dream. Depersonalization is when you feel disconnected from your body, like you're watching yourself live someone else's life. Your thoughts, emotions, experiences, and feelings feel like someone else's. Do either of those two definitions sound a little like anything that I've taught you before? It's because they are absolutely real, they are absolutely the truth, and if you have experienced anything like depersonalization or derealization, this can be a step, a beginning, if you will, towards your awakening or enlightenment processes, although you see these two things as objectively bad. When we talk about derealization, feeling like the world is a dream or whatnot, or that it doesn't feel like everything is real, what are we talking about there? Well, we're talking about these fake concepts that have been nailed into your head ever since you were a child of the difference between real and not real. Real and not real are a duality which are created through language. That is what is keeping the illusion of the self and the real world alive, which is preventing you from becoming enlightened in the first place. You see, all these things that I teach, they are the ultimate truth. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get away from all the BS of like religion, anything else like that. And we're trying to get you to have a direct experience of the truth. I'm not here to enact a belief system in your mind and try to start a cult or something like that. I am here to convince you to start this journey for yourself, to have a direct experience of enlightenment / awakening / the truth of no self, so you can prove it real to you. It does not help to just believe my words or take them as blind faith. In fact, it hurts. The concept of real versus not real. It's almost like the concept of something versus nothing. The whole problem as to why people ask in philosophy, what is it like to experience nothing? What is it like to experience being dead? Why is this reality something rather than nothing? This is a problem that everyone skips the first step, the whole reason that the problem is here, which is the definition of nothing. So everyone learned that when they were a kid, that maybe you asked your mom, like, what is something? And she points to a dog. And then you're like, what is nothing? And then maybe she like points to the air or something like that. Those are definitions that even like scientists and major philosopher looks past when they're trying to discover what nothing is they're all taught when they were younger that if you point to a table, that's nothing. And if you point to nothing, aka the air or something like that, then that is nothing. But what if instead of not understanding what nothing was, is the whole problem was that this was a definition issue that you've had. So imagine if when you asked what is nothing to your mom, what if when you asked what is nothing, she pointed to a table? That is nothing. What if when you said, give me another example of nothing, she pointed to a dog and she said, that is nothing? Or if you said, give me another example, she pointed to like a clock and she said, that is nothing. This whole concept between something and nothing, dream versus not a dream. We're contrasting the dualism in our head when in reality, like they should be merged together like this. So when you have derealization or something like that, when you're thinking like, this is real, right? And it's not supposed to be unreal. The reality is supposed to be physical, but if I have derealization, it feels like it is unphysical, and that is what's causing me this distress right now. You have this belief, just like nothing versus something, you have this belief, real versus unreal. Look around you very objectively in your peripheral vision right now. Forget everything I just said. You have the belief system. Someone told you that this is real. Where did they grab that information out of? That this experience is real. That is a completely made up definition that makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense that this is real life versus an imagination that you had or a dream that you had last night is not real life. You took the definition of real. Someone built that concept in your head and said, okay, now place it into this experience right now. The experience you have where you go to work or you go to school or you care for your family or you have a mom and dad, take all that and put it right here. And we're calling this entire thing real. That's a concept built in your head. When we're talking about derealization, the realization that is pointing you towards the truth that you think is bad, this whole derealization thing, what the derealization really actually is breaking down these false concepts that are holding your sense of reality together. That's what derealization really is. None of this is real. The fact that you were told what real is versus unreal or imaginary, there's no line between any of it. And that's what I teach here, is that you can awaken to this reality being a complete and utter dream, which is what derealization is completely pushing you towards. If you experience this, you're having thoughts about it, or this is your introduction to spirituality, let's say you smoked too much weed one day or something, or did psychedelic and you experienced derealization, I'm saying this is not just some mental problem that you're having in your mind, some defect, some medical issue that you're having in your mind. All that happened is that these false beliefs and concepts that have been wired into your head as a kid, you did something, you had some existential thought, or did some meditative or spiritual self-inquiry or practice that made you finally realize that these concepts do not exist. But now you have anxiety and you're calling it bad. Let's go to the next one. We're going to talk about depersonalization, and that actually hits a lot more home towards what my whole channel is dedicated to, depersonalization. Because when I talk about depersonalization, the whole thing I teach is that you are not the body, you are not the thoughts. The feelings, the images in the head, and the thoughts in the head are all happening without someone doing any of it. I talk a lot about on my channel, if you haven't watched my enlightenment videos, I talk a lot about how when you have an enlightenment experience, it feels like you're bleeding out of your body into the universe, or that you almost feel like you're a puppet, or that the universe is controlling the body and then you do not have control of the body or the thoughts anymore. I talk about what you really are in reality is that you are this empty space that is inside this bubble field of perception that you are located in right now. All these senses that you have, touch, smell, taste, feelings, noises, or thoughts, all those experiences that are happening right now in this perceptual bubble, you are not actually any of them right now. What you are is the empty space inside of this room. You are not localized as a point in the head or an image of your face or thoughts going through the head or even like a feeling in your skull or something like that. The stuff that I teach on my page, this stuff is real. And if you're saying to me, well, there's a chance that it's not real, and that you're deceived, and that you did something to yourself that makes you convinced that it's real fully, when in reality, I'm still going to be the agnostic here in spirituality and say that we could never really know if it's real. I'll give you a good example for that as well. Let's say you have a table with absolutely nothing on it. I put a glass of water on the center of that table, and I say to you right now, see that? There is not a glass of water on that table right now. Or even better, let's say a scientist says that to you, because all you people out there, you want to believe all these scientific theories and whatnot. Let's say a glass of water is on that table right now, and a scientist points at it and says, there's no glass of water on that table. You look at that table, right? And you see that glass of water. And then you start to think about what the scientist is saying, and you're like, oh, well, he's a scientist and he has a PhD and he's older than me and he's teaching all these things that he's learned through these big scientific instruments. And so now that I'm looking at this glass of water, maybe this is just a hallucination, this glass of water. I mean, I've never hallucinated before in the past, but I could be having an hallucination right now. Or maybe the light that's coming through the window is making it look like there's a glass of water on the table and there's not. But maybe he installed like a little holographic thing inside the table, and it's pretend it looks like there's a glass of water, but it's really a hologram and it's not actually a glass of water, even though there doesn't really look like there's any screws or metal pieces or lenses attached to the table or anywhere else. In reality, at the end of the day, you're looking at a glass of water at that table. Eventually, you have to bite the bullet and you have to say, okay, the scientist is wrong, then all of science is wrong. There's clearly a glass of water on this table. Like, I just can't prove it. There's no way for me to prove that there is not. There's no light making it go. There's no hologram making it go. I'm not having hallucinations right now. I'm clearly awake, and there's a glass of water on this table, so we're just going to say it is. And that's what happens when enlightenment finally happens, is you can no longer say that there's a you inside the head, because there just clearly is not. The only things that exist in reality are feelings in the body, images in the head, and words and dialogue as images, and then like the 5 other sense perceptions. That is all that there is. This you that is like somewhere here, this perceptual creature living inside the head that's like pulling on the levers and stuff, you're never going to find that as hard as you look. So eventually, once you become enlightened, awakened, you realize that like there's no doubting it whatsoever. This is the truth and no self. It is real. It is true. It is something you could experience. And once you finally awaken to this, you're going to say to yourself, how could I have ever thought that this was not the case? This is clearly the case. It's so blindingly obvious that I cannot find a person inside of the head right now. And it feels exactly the way of how I just read that derealization quote right there. You become disconnected from your body. You feel like you aren't living inside of the body right now, because there is no you inside the body. There's nothing like that. During my awakening experiences, I felt like this whole body was hollow, that I've exited my body, that I was not the one doing the thoughts anymore, or thinking the images in my head. I was not the one doing any of that. You realize that as your true self, your true self is not capable of thinking. You are not able to think. The real you that is there, it's not inside the head. It is just empty space inside of this entire room. And all it can do is observe. It can't think. It just watches these pictures moving on the screen. It's watching the images. It's watching the noises. It's watching the smells. It's watching the tastes. It's watching the thoughts. But this true self, this you, this empty space that you truly are, it does not have the ability to think or move or take any action whatsoever. There is no free will. So that's what depersonalization points to. That's what happens when you start having an awakening. You break down your concept of self. You start feeling like you are not in your body, that you are someone else's, and that nothing else is real, and that you are not real, and you do not really exist. Great. I just scarred you for life if you're one of those people who does not like depersonalization or does not like experiencing derealization. However, I am now going to help those of you who are having problems with this. Now, here's the problem with derealization or depersonalization. You're confused as to what you are afraid of. You're taking this pure fear on its own, and then you're taking the concept of depersonalization versus derealization. You're merging the two, and then you are saying depersonalization slash derealization is scary because it's objectively scary. That's not a bias. It's objectively scary only because you merge this fear and anxiety with it. What you have, the whole reason that this problem is a problem in your life and is causing fear, is because you are objectively labeling this depersonalization and derealization as scary objectively, when in reality you need to separate the two. Depersonalization and derealization on one hand is not objectively scary. The only thing that is discomforting as to what you're experiencing is because you have anxiety. But that has nothing to do with the depersonalization, derealization. You are just putting those two things together. So when we can train ourselves to get rid of the anxiety, the depersonalization, derealization is left, but it's no longer a problem because it's no longer scary. You see how the only problem was this fear you were having? That's what we need to get rid of. And I know this more than anyone, because when I first went through my awakening, I first had this experience of derealization and depersonalization. And what it felt like for me was every time that I'd wake up in the morning beforehand, right? Before I was like 16 or 17 or whenever this started happening to me, I would wake up in the morning, and as soon as I woke up in the morning, my concept of real, solid materialism would immediately seep into my brain, and it would make everything feel so real. I'd be like really that boundary was there. I'd be like, that was a dream I was having 30 seconds ago, and now I'm awake and this is solid and real, and I'm back in the universe made up of atoms and materialistic matter. But then when I started with all my spirituality and awakening work, everything like that, My first sign of fear that I was having with this depersonalization, derealization is I would wake up, and instead of like that happening as soon as I woke up, like it was loosey-goosey in a dream reality, and then I'd wake up and I'd go, "Ugh, real." And that stopped happening. I would wake up in the morning, and then life did not do that solid thing anymore, like solid matter thing. I would wake up, it just wouldn't happen. I wouldn't get that, like, you know what I mean? So I was like, wait. Things still feel unreal, loosey-goosey right now, like they did when I was dreaming. I'm no longer getting this like hard physical matter awakened reality concept in my head anymore. Like, that is not good. That should not be happening. How do I know if I'm awake? How do I know if I'm still dreaming? Oh my God, oh my God. Oh my. And that's when the derealization, depersonalization started happening, and it was a problem. Now, I started to learn what this was, and just because of the person that I am, as soon as I started to practice this enlightenment work and whatnot, I started to find it cool. Because how can we find it cool? How can we not find it scary? Number one, if you disidentify from the self and you're not the self anymore, that means that death does not exist. Death is not a real thing if you are not the body. Okay, what's scary about that? What's scary is this materialistic thing of, oh my God, you're going to die, and then there's going to be this existential void for billions and trillions of years. That's what's scary. Once you finally wake the fuck up and you realize, oh my God, I'm not gonna die anymore, you go, wait, this is not scary. This derealization and awakening experiences, this is not scary. This is the most beautiful thing to ever happen. And if reality feels like a dream, why does that have to be, like on a completely different note, why does that have to be scary at all? That's beautiful, that's cool. You're just like, oh, it's not supposed to be like that because I've been alive for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And that's just how it's been. It's just cool if you're in this dream. Who cares if it's made of matter? Who cares if it's not? You're in this cool dream. It's like a playground. Yeah, bad things happen and whatnot, but it's like almost like freeing in the way. It's like you're in this infinite playground. This is beautiful. This is cool stuff. You're in this infinite playground and you're not gonna die. Like, come on, what's the scariest thing about that? It takes some getting used to, yes. But if you actually have this gift, if you're experiencing derealization, depersonalization right now, you have this gift and you are able to see that life possibly is not real. You are possibly not real. You know how lucky you are? I feel like 99.9% of people are just sulking, walking around thinking, oh, this is a hard physical reality and I gotta go to work in the rain. I'm gonna die and be dead for a billion years. You are not one of those people, dude. Take this as a beautiful thing that's happening to you. Realize that depersonalization, derealization is amazing. It is not scary. It means that you cannot die. You're not gonna die. You have not, if you do not exist, then that means that there's no free will. You have made no mistakes. You have caused no problems. You're this pure infinite sphere existing in this void. It's an imaginary playground. Everything is beautiful, and it is a million times actually more optimistic than this previous belief system that you had before.